Oh, we're now live. You see what it is,
Yeah, go
and
for
then the regular thing. Okay, so we're live for now part 2 of Live and Unscripted on January 17th. The broadcast has cut us off, and so we're going to just give you part 2. This is all part of the joy of like living life unfiltered and unscripted and in the real and the raw and the vulnerable with you. So I was just letting you know. Yay!
Yay, we're on.
Thank you, LinkedIn. Will you stick that back over there, please? Wow. I This is so much fun this morning. I was in the process of saying I feel a little off kilter. I feel a little like agitation, and so to have some of the hiccups this morning is pushing my buttons a little bit. But here we are. We're good. I was explaining that I'm like, do I just start over? No. If you would like to hear what I've already said, go listen to the first couple of minutes of this that are not showing on this program. Live and Unscripted is a program where I interview people that I've met on a brief instance. I find their story fascinating and invite them to be a part of here, where I get to meet them live and unscripted with you, unfiltered. I ask one question, and from there we let inspiration be the guide, and we've had amazing conversations. I really don't know where I left off, but here we go.
Why don't we get into breathing?
I was just going to say, we always start the program with a moment of breathing, partly for me, and also to just show you that it's a super simple and easy tool to use at any day, or on any day or part of your day or moment in your day when you may feel a little frazzled and you just could use your heart and your head and your gut to come into coherence, into that place where you can just be present, where you can let go of anything that's already happened in the day, and you can let go of anything you think may happen in the day, and just be present right here, right now, where inspiration can be the guide, where solutions to problems come a little easier, or just creation process becomes more clear and more fun because you're present with it. So I didn't think about breathing today, honestly. Do you have thoughts?
I think back to Florida when we met friend Dewey. If you're watching, Dewey, hi. I really loved how she took us from the top of our heads down to our toes and then moving right back up again. And I could just really feel the breath move through me, especially if I'm standing. So
I'm going to let Leah take over breathing today.
Okay, that's good. So we can just close our eyes or have a downward gaze, and just pay attention to what your body's doing as you feel the breath move through your body. And I invite you to let go of anything that feels crunchy for you today, or and breathe that out with your out breath, and then breathe in how you want to feel. So just close your eyes or downward gaze and just take a deep breath in and feel it filling in your lungs. Imagine it's going all the way to the top of your head, and then just feel the breath move down your head, past your ears, moving down through your neck, through your shoulders, feeling the breath just relaxing all those parts of you, down through your chest, through your belly. If you're sitting, through your sit bones, and let the breath just keep going down, 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 down past your knees. And wiggle your toes and really feel the breath in your toes. And then take a second, breathe that in. I think I already said breathe in. We're going to breathe that out.
If you're like me, you're going to yawn it out every time.
There we go. You're going to yawn it out.
Which is beautiful.
And it's, there's no right way or wrong way to do it. The point is to take time to just get back into your body, breathe it out. I just imagine like this movement of energy moving through my toes, through my ankles. I have some soreness in my one ankle today, through my calves, up through my knees. I feel the energy coming up through my legs, through my hips, into my belly. And I feel like this warm ball of energy in my belly. And I can move that up through my chest and then breathe it out to you. Maybe a little different than we usually do, but That's going to work today.
I like it a lot. It's interesting because as I was thinking about just breathing, and I was grateful that I didn't have to do it today, so thank you. Not that I couldn't have, but I think I needed that moment to just. And obviously, you notice yawning came with my out breath today, which is a sign to me of like I really needed to breathe. I think my mind's been on whirl mode, thinking about the various events that we put on and the activities we're doing, and making sure that we're getting all of our ducks in a row, so we can assist you with having your ducks in a row with some of these things. And just I love putting these on, and sometimes I forget to just do that for myself in moments. And so I think that's part of what I'm feeling.
Is that part of like, I want this to be a really good experience, and
it
just
is
so much.
It's the ego part of me of I want this to be a really amazing experience for you, versus the spirit part of me that says host the event that you're being called to host, trusting that it's going to be exactly what someone needs to experience. Like the ego part of me really wants to take over and do what you just said.
Well, I
The
wonder
human
if it's
part of me.
even like ego, but just having, I think of past events that I've gone to, and just the user process of how I wish I would have been informed, or how I want things to look, or how I would feel more settled in that process.
Yes, there's definitely
to facilitate trust with the people who are entrusting their dollars and their time with us. So.
Right. At the same time, I hear you say that, and at the same time, there's also this sense of like
someone's at the door. Well, that's fun. Would you like
yeah. Would you? There's also this part of it. It kind of rubs with me a little bit, because I mean, we are expecting someone at 1:00, but that's not for a bit. This idea of we've been taught that we got to have certain things in order to trust a company or a person or a program, when the reality is we don't necessarily have to have all those things. We can learn to come inside of ourselves and feel what it feels like, and to trust. And so I really, that's a battle I have with myself. Honestly, some of the experiences I've had the most life-changing, I'm going to say, experience with, or the most fulfilling, are the ones where I didn't have everything laid out for me. I had to actually go inside and feel and trust for myself what was going on. What I'm like, what are we good, Leah?
John's here. He needs a ride to Walgreens.
Okay. Well, we're busy for like the next bit. Anyway, so you guys, this is how I feel today. Just a bit unhinged. I don't know if unhinged is just like disconnected. And I'm trying to think about, I don't want to start another question or comments because there's distraction. And I just want to say to you guys, like, it's okay to have those days. It's okay to just sit in those spaces and to remember to practice the tool that we started with here, and that's to just breathe. That's a tough one.
What's going on?
I was just saying how like disconnected I feel, and the distractions today. And so to have distractions come, like I want to, my insides just kind of want to feel like this. Yeah, a little bit. And to just giving the reminder and the invitation to like practice the breathing tool, to just settle back in. I was also saying, like, I don't really know where to finish the thought or to start a new one without having you be here, so that yeah.
Oh boy.
This is life.
Yes.
This is life. And this is real life sometimes, and we all get to experience it. Those people you think that look like they have all their poop together, they don't. Like,
I think it's so interesting because I've had this conversation with someone recently about why is it I have to have all these lessons? Like, why can't I just move through things without all the heartache or all the, trauma or all the consternation of just trying to be okay in a day? Like, why is it all these lessons keep coming? And I think it's so easy to get caught up in that everyone there's everything from an outsider's perspective, but everyone has their stuff, right? Like, everyone has their hard moments, or even if they haven't had them in their childhood, it's life. Like, they're going to experience death at some point. They're going to experience loss at some point. They're going to experience just hardship in one way or another.
Whatever aspects of humanism that they're getting to live, maybe it's health issues. Maybe it's
feeling stuck. I don't know how many of you out there have felt stuck at some point in your life. That those are learning points and things that help us grow and present challenges. Learning to say no or to set boundaries.
That's a big one. That's a big one. Like, wow, that's a big one. I had an experience last night where I was getting milk, and there was a cute man inside the little shack where I get milk, and because I get it from a dairy, and he was putting eggs in there, and he's like, "Oh, you're just getting milk?" And I said, "Yeah." And he started asking me questions that were kind of personal, and I was like, "Well," answering them I was answering the questions without giving personal details, like without giving information. And then he's asking for my phone number. He offered me free eggs, which was really, really nice. And asking me for my phone number and inviting me out to dinner or on a date. And it kind of caught me off guard. And when I got back in the car, I thought, oh yeah, boundaries. Like, boundaries.
I think it's challenging though.
I get caught up in not wanting to hurt somebody's feelings, or like caught up in like, whoa, is this really happening? And remembering that I have boundaries.
Yeah. But you had the wherewithal to not give a whole bunch of information. Like, you had some of those boundaries, right? Like, just the way you answer questions. I just think of this interaction that just happened just a few minutes ago of, I'm not familiar with this neighbor. I'm just learning what some of those boundaries are. And I wasn't sure what that experience is or how to handle that, because I haven't encountered that before here. So it was easier once you had said like what that boundary would be for you. It was easier for me to say not right now, or, can we assist later or something.
Well, and the reality is we're in the middle of something right now.
Yeah.
And we have a meeting at 1:00. And that is for me, that's a challenging thing, because I don't like hurting people's feelings. I don't really love telling people no, although that is a boundary that I've learned how to perform fairly well, because what I've recognized is, one, if I'm not taking care of me first, which some people say is selfish, and if that's the case, I say be selfish. You have to take care of you first in order to have enough to take care of other people. And just because someone else needs something in a particular moment, their emergency doesn't make it yours. Now, if there was something that was really urgent with that and really emergent, we may have changed this up and created the way to do that. But because it's okay to say, hey, we can maybe do that later for you today. Come and ask in a little while. I was overhearing, again, I was distracted because I was overhearing what was going on, because I know the neighbor. And I really appreciate how you handled that. And so pats on the back for you.
It's like, is it urgent? And it's, yeah, I need a gift card. I'm like, and then I'm like, okay, I have to put myself like, there's an urgency that he's feeling, but I'm not, I don't feel that's urgent. And I'm not, it's just, it's interesting.
Let's put it to them. How would you guys handle that? Someone comes to your door, you're in the middle of a live program. You also have a meeting at the end of the live program, and someone comes to you with their urgency. How do you handle that? I would love to hear it. One, because it's fascinating to me to see how other people handle those kinds of situations of saying either no, that doesn't work for me, or hey, not right now, come back, or maybe at another date. Like, how do you handle saying no? And again, stick it in the comments. I'd love to hear it. And there's bound to be someone else watching this program who will benefit from how you handle the no boundary. Um,
That reminds me of a story that you shared about being a part of a running group, and yeah, it's your story.
go ahead, because I think it's fun to hear how.
So the story is that Jen was part of this running group, and they would do these runs. And this one lady that was running the groups.
Yeah, we were a team. We were running as a team, so we were practicing as a team.
So she's like, "We're gonna do this run Saturday morning from this time to this time," and Jen's like, "Oh, I can't go, or I'm not.
Yeah,
able
I
to
won't
go.
be there.
I won't be there." And she's just like, well, why? And you're like, I just won't be there. And I just appreciate and have so much respect for the fact that you didn't feel like you had to explain it, that you didn't feel like you had to give something that was more important than this. Like, it was just straight up, I just won't be there. It doesn't work.
I actually really appreciate that you bring that up, because that experience came at a point in my life where I was just really learning how to practice saying no without defending myself or feeling like I have to give a reason. Like, I and you can just say no, or no thank you, or that doesn't work for me on that date, without reason.
Okay.
And it was so shocking, because I just said, hey, I won't be there. Well, why won't you be there? And I just said, I won't be there. And just the like incredulousness on her face of like, what, you're not giving me a reason as to why you're not doing something. We don't owe people an explanation.
That's part of boundaries, right?
It is part of boundaries.
But I also okay. So a few questions have come up when you talk about that. I'm like, so is it hurtful to that person to say, no, I'm not coming to your thing? And is it hurtful to not give them a reason why you're not coming and let them sit with those feelings? Like, where's that line of like, am I hurting you? Or that it's okay to have boundaries? Because I also know, the culture you grew up with, there aren't boundaries with, everyone knows everyone's business, and, you're always doing the things together. So where's that line? I'm just curious in other places.
That's a good question, because even now, when I have got to say I have something scheduled, and something else comes up that really is important or maybe urgent, like I've been waiting for it for a while, and they want to schedule at the same time, and this is something that I've really got to do in order to perpetuate business, and making sure I'm staying on top of things that way versus, maybe just a play date or something. I often, when I'm saying, hey, I've got to request a reschedule, I have to pause. Like, I actually pause almost 100% of the time, because I want to give a reason or excuses about why and it's not excuses because it's legit, but why I'm changing the thing, when in reality I'm just requesting a change, and you don't have to know why.
And I think when we give explanations and the reasons, it gives people,
feels like excuses.
It's not even, that's not where I was going, but I mean, it gives people a place to argue or to offer solutions that you don't even want, or it gives them a place to, well, you could do that another, like, then you're almost allowing, when you give reasons for your explanations, you're almost giving a door for people to get into your business and start, offering solutions to something you didn't ask for. You're not asking for solutions. You're just, this is what I actually need. I need to reschedule, and that's it. I mean, how do you feel when you get a message like that? I have to reschedule, no reason.
Yeah, I just was going to say that. Like, I often think about how I feel about that, and I don't, I think I've practiced it enough that I don't feel like I need one. Like, if someone's requesting, even if they're going to go on a play date, and maybe that's the thing that they need more in their world right now. I know that there have been times where I have felt, and this is my responsibility. I have felt put off or disregarded on occasion. Um, but I think that's more like when someone continues to ask
Mhm.
for a reschedule, and there's an energy. Actually, it's about tapping into how you feel in regards to the energy that the message is sending. And I would much rather have someone be honest with me and say, "Hey, I just need to reschedule. I don't I don't feel like I need the explanation because sometimes it feels like I don't know. Sometimes the explanation feels cheap.
Like an avoidant.
Yeah, like we're making an excuse.
Yeah. That
I
can
think
feel
we've been
challenging.
taught that. Like,
But why are we taught to give a reason? Like I was taught that it's out of consideration and that you want to hold that person in high regard and consider their schedule and their time.
well,
But
absolutely.
at the same time, I'm like, why? I think of when I give my kids reasons as to no for something, and then they can go and argue with some of that. But I
I
think
guess
it's
I guess it brings up the question: does it really matter what the reason is? Like, are you not going to reschedule with me because you don't like my reason? Are you not going to reschedule with me? Like, when the reality is, I just need to reschedule. I'm asking to continue to meet with you. It just has got to be at
are
a
you
different
asking
time.
for grace? Like, are you asking for people when
When
you
we're
give a reason? Are you asking for grace that they don't think poorly of you?
No, I
Like,
don't. I honestly don't think it's that. I think it's we're trying to defend ourselves as to
mm,
why we're requesting. Uh, we're trying to validate the fact that we need
validate.
a change of appointment date. Or I mean, think about it. Like, if a dentist cancels your appointment or a doctor change, they don't give you a reason. They say we're canceling your appointment and you can reschedule on your own, or sometimes they give you an option. They don't give you a reason.
Yeah. I think well, and it's funny because I'm thinking, okay, in the places that's happened, it gives you something to complain about. Well, why didn't they have someone scheduled, or why didn't they, or for them, there was some sort of freak accident, or like I think of a storm that happened and our appointments got rescheduled. But I didn't need to know that. It just got rescheduled. I think it gives you an opportunity to just move on quicker.
Yeah, it's just an interesting topic of like learning to set boundaries. And for me, it was more about the recognition of I do not have to, um, which felt really crappy at first because I always felt like I had to give a reason or tell people my business in order to validate what I'm doing, instead of just letting it be okay inside myself because it feels good inside myself to do that thing, or it fits the schedule or the timing or whatever it is. That was super crazy. So it still is. Like, it still is. And there are areas in my lived experience and practice where, um, like with the race that I put on, we have dates. Any race that you go to will have protocols and procedures, especially when it comes to registration. With, do we give refunds? Do we do rollovers? They have dates as when those things will accept rollovers until this date. We'll do this much refunds until this date, and they have reasons as to why they do what they do in their particular event. And I still struggle when people are requesting rollovers for our event past the deadline, and they're giving me all of their reasons and excuses why, and their reasons may be valid, but they're pushing. I still struggle with that, and I've had to really like come inside myself and be in a space of, we have protocols and procedures for a reason. I have a board for a reason. Like, I've even done things like reached out to other race directors and said, "Oh, you guys, I don't know how to handle this. This is somebody I know or somebody I don't know," and they're like, "Stick to your
Yeah.
protocols. Stick to your protocols." And so I've done
It's a
things. It
safety.
is a safety for myself. It's a safety for our event. It's a safety for the people who help put on the event.
And it's just fair for everyone.
There's that. But because I don't like to tell people no, and I was thinking, like, what would I want or what would I expect? And one, it gives me a chance to really check in on what it is I'm expecting, and is it valid? Is it reasonable? But I've learned I used to write things like, hey, we have policies and procedures. I stick the link in there, and my board is really asking that I stick to them. Now I just say, we have policies and procedures. Thank you for reaching out. You can go read it here, and we hope to see you next year.
Yeah.
But it took me a long time to get to that space, to be okay saying no in that way.
I mean, what does it say about you when you say no? Like, why do you feel that was difficult? Why do you think it might be difficult for other people to say no?
Yeah, I think because, well, for myself, it's like, what are people going to think of me if I say no? If I'm turning, are they going to think that I'm not helpful? Are they going to think that I'm not nice, that I'm not kind? Do they think that it's things like that? It's the wanting to be liked, accepted, and cool race director.
Okay.
When the reality is, the cool race director follows their procedures, or event person, or whatever it is.
I just, when you're saying those things, I'm thinking, okay, you're nice and you're liked, but are you respected?
Yeah.
Are you honored for your position? Or are you seen as a pushover because I don't have to adhere to these dates because I have an in with this person,
Yeah.
and I can just ask them and they'll give it to me.
Yeah. And I will say there have been some instances that are legit things that we've made an acceptance for here and there, and I felt okay with that. And sometimes they come back and sometimes they don't, but I like that idea of the respected piece, the trusted piece, trusted that I'm going to follow what my policies and procedures say in whatever event we're doing, or in whatever I say in my life in general.
I think it's hard because if you start giving that line to this person and that person, and then you're almost excluding other people, and it just makes it messy.
Yeah,
I feel like it just makes it messy.
Yeah, there's that piece like that. That's a legit thing. Crazy. Wow, this was not a topic I thought we were going to be talking about today.
No, I don't think we came on here with an agenda or itinerary of what we would talk about.
No, but I think that's a big. I actually really appreciate that. That's where this is led today, because boundaries are such an important piece of healthy living and being able to live. I believe it's Brene Brown who says wholeheartedly, like living in your whole self and your whole heart space. You've got to have boundaries, and it's not a lack of love for other people, but just a show of love for yourself, which allows you to love other people.
So even better. What about when it's like you have a boundary and other people don't understand that boundary? How do you manage that piece?
That's been a challenge for me. Like, not gonna lie.
Because it's that whole wanting to be understood, but at the same time, not being able to communicate things to people in a way that is understanding, like that they can understand it from their perspective, but you feel strongly about it. Like, how, and it's not even, how do you navigate that?
That's challenging, because I would want other people to understand why I'm setting a boundary from their perspective. And the reality is, most of the time, that's probably not going to happen. And I know with some of the boundaries that I have set for myself, there's pushback, and they're like, well, everything that you say, I could just turn back to you. And the answer is, yeah. Yeah, you could, and you can. And a lot of times, if I'm setting a boundary, it's because, one, I'm learning how to set it in that particular place, or how to really practice it. And one thing that I noticed is that if I find myself upset, say I've had a interaction with somebody, and I'm finding myself really upset, when I go back and look at, like, why am I upset? It's often not necessarily the conversation, although there may have been upsetting things inside of that conversation, or things that evoked more emotion, or that I attached upset to. But more often than not, it's the fact that I set a boundary and I let them cross it. I didn't stand up for myself with my boundary and say, that's the boundary. And but when I do, what I find is that respect piece that you talk about um, is probably at a higher level, and so is the trust. Like they actually, someone who has a boundary, you actually can trust probably more because, especially those who stick to it, because they're telling you something and then they're actually doing it. So when that happens in other spaces in their world or interactions with them, you go, okay, they have this boundary and they kept it. So like when they're telling me this, it's probably the thing that's going to happen.
I think what's important about boundaries is it's not about the other person. It's about protecting yourself, your own space. I feel that anyways.
Is it about protecting? Because I feel like protecting, for me, it's about honoring more than protecting. I feel like protecting is putting up a shield.
Let's talk that out. What's the difference between honoring and protecting?
Yeah.
As far as word energy goes.
Sure. So for me, protecting is like building a wall or putting a shield on or some kind of like I'm not going to let you in and I'm not really going to get out. We're just going to, whereas honoring means I'm willing to say, where am I at in this? It allows me the space to go inward and look at my feelings, look at my emotions, look at my thoughts and go, okay, where am I with this situation and this boundary? And the boundary, it also allows me to look at both sides of the situation. It allows me to still honor the other person and where they're at. It allows me to love them. I feel like honoring creates a permeability without blocking. Okay. It still allows me to, like I say, to love if that's still a thing, or to like. There can still be interaction, but here's the line, and that line can be moved according to like what my emotional health is like, or maybe they're the one setting the boundary, and they get to move what that is for their own emotional health. That's my take on protecting versus honoring.
Because I look at boundaries not just in relationship. I look at boundaries as far as like, how much time am I going to spend doing this?
Absolutely.
How much, and I think of protecting my time to say like to do painting or to write, and like what are those boundaries, and how, I think of protecting my time, because if I don't protect that time, I don't have that time. And if it's constantly moving,
see, even the way, watch her body language when she says protecting. When you say protect, she puts her arm around and holds it. Like your whole demeanor changed. Where if you say, I'm honoring my time, honoring feels like a more open space to still set that time.
I don't know. I don't feel very safe with honoring. I don't.
It's okay.
It doesn't, because it feels like someone can move in on that space, whether it's relationship or time or
why
whatever.
would they be able to move in on that space?
Because it's more open and, like you said,
because
permeable.
Only you get to choose the permeability and the movability of that. It feels unprotected, because in my case, I haven't been strong enough to hold the boundary and I let people push in, versus saying, no, I love myself enough to honor me and what I say and my heart, and instead of like, no, you can't come in.
I don't really see I love it like that. Okay. It's so interesting, because like,
again, I would love to hear what, like, we're having this disagreements, I guess, on what that is. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. Keep going.
Well, I'm just thinking like, I don't know. I think of protecting my kids. I think of protecting that, my home. Why do we lock our cars? Why do we lock our doors? Like, we want to protect that space. We want to protect those more tender pieces of us, or just hold our integrity.
I just felt this go in a whole big different direction. Yeah.
Like I can honor my car and leave it unlocked, but someone could just walk in and take my stuff. I can honor someone else, and I can protect my boundary and protect myself and still honor someone else. Mm-hmm. Like I just feel that's
okay. So
I see the barrier thing.
Yeah. So maybe part of what you're saying, because I feel like when you're saying protect your children, I feel places where like Mama Bear comes in and
But I feel
heck
that in
yeah.
myself. Like there's pieces of myself that I want to protect.
I love it. I love this is so beautiful. I love it. Because it's true, we all have that. We all have that. There are pieces of me I still want to protect. Like it's really we had this discussion
Oh
we
yeah.
had this discussion yesterday.
We had a lot of discussions. I'm not sure which one.
Just the discussions about sometimes I feel like this is part of my unhingedness today is just feeling through learning to stay open, learning to keep your heart open, and knowing that that means that there's going to be disappointments, that there's going to be things that don't feel as nice or as comfortable or as fun. Um, but instead of closing them off, keeping them open because we're here to feel, we're here to experience. And the in our conversation, I said the same thing. I'm like, there are parts of me that are scared to like really be out there in those open, vulnerable ways, and I want to protect. I want to close them off because my mind says, well, you could get hurt, or you could feel sad, or you could experience whatever the thing, judgment, or whatever the thing is. And when the reality is, I want to just be open, and I want people to feel that openness, but that means I have to have boundaries to say here's what works for me and here's what doesn't. And I also feel like it's a really good model for other people who you interact with to say this is my boundary, this is what works and this is what doesn't.
Absolutely. Let the girl walk in. It makes me think of it's. But who do you open to? I think
that's a very valid question.
You know,
and not everyone does. No, that is not a great statement. It's not what I'm trying to say. Not everyone gets to hear your story or have all of those pieces of your heart. Again, I believe it's Brene who says they have to earn the right. And I think that's been part of my issue is with Righteous Rebels is sharing openly with my lived experience and the lessons that have brought up leveling, and doing it in a way that's honest, that's kind, but without. I guess the thought that comes to mind is like tossing pearls before swine.
Mm.
I'm not saying you're swine.
No, but there is an element of trust that has to develop to feel safe, because the reality is to be open, you have to feel safe. And I know that starts within yourself and you know, your own self-confidence and realizing, you know, when people are tossing daggers, it's really not about you, even though it feels
like it, right?
It feels like it feels personal, but it's really not about you. It's what you're mirroring to someone. I think that was probably one of the hardest lessons for me to learn, is it's not personal. I look at, I had a friendship dissolve, like a really, really close friendship. And so much of me wants to take that personally. And so much of me wants to be like, what's wrong with me? People keep leaving and walking out of my life. Like, why doesn't anyone stay? And the reality is that I'm mirroring things in them that make them uncomfortable. And, you know, they've come on this journey with me so far, but I can't continue to play the role that they, for whatever reason, need me to play to continue to stay in their lives. So it's easier to cut off and move on than to be asked to grow.
Right. That piece. I think we all have we all are choosing our level of growth and expansion and up leveling. And when we do that, we poke things and unintentionally in other people. And they feel their feels, and they may not even be knowing that they're being poked, or they're uncomfortable with your growth, or
And
and
they didn't
it
want to get
does.
angry at you or like
Yeah.
start inventing stories, or in some cases like rewriting the story of you and who you must be to not fit in their world. Sorry.
Yeah, it's no, don't be sorry. Like that's a valid thing, and again, you've probably had experiences like that in your own world, and um, life practice, and it's such a fascinating learning. Like I've been really checking in with where have I taken things personal. People who I considered my friends, uh, just like drop off, and that's painful for me. That's really painful for me, and I have taken it personally. And
What was the quote you saw this morning about?
yeah, I was just thinking about that on my friend KMA Kirsten Alexander. She's a coach. um, it was something like, of course I took that personal. It's something I wouldn't have done to you.
Yeah.
Which I find fascinating. And yeah, chew on that one. Chew on that one. I would love to. My ear is itching. Um, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. But it just as we start this new year, I think what's been really cool is we've talked about, we started our 100 days of expansion, and what I'm recognizing is the 100 days of expansion that I thought I was going to be having are not the 100 days of expansion that are actually happening. And the the massive momentum and forward motion is not taking place in the ways that I thought it was going to take place. And it's that piece of surrender of my whole last year was learning about surrender and what that means in my world, and how that can bring some really uncomfortable experiences and changes. And that's been my aha moments of having spent the last 17, I don't know, from the 21st of December till January, recently in Canada, and just the experiences that I had there, and um, the moments of ahas of my own. We talked about it on Thursday in Leah's paint cast. Just the ahas of presence, how judgment plays a role still in my life, uh, just was eye opening to me. Just being around the people that I was with, and noticing what felt like their lack of judgment, and just allowing people to be people. And so I feel like the momentum that I'm getting and the ahas that I'm getting are in those ways of just a lot of self introspection, and the shifting that's going on there for the up leveling, so that as I move through the rest of the year, I have a clearer space. I have a heart that's more kind, um, which to some of you may not feel good, because it's honesty, and it's boundary setting, but it's also loving. It comes from a space of love. Um,
Yeah, because if you're dishonoring yourself to appease someone else or to not hurt someone else's feelings, like you can only do that for so long before you start killing the vibrant, lively parts of yourself that are the honest parts of yourself, because you're lying about who you are and how you want to show up just to protect someone else.
which is a really crappy way to live. Like, it's a really crappy way to live, which is part of why I felt so driven to create the Righteous Rebels. And I had a coach at the time, and he was like, "No, you cannot name a business the Righteous Rebels." And I was like, "And we're probably going to be done coaching, um, because all of the reasons you're telling me why it can't is exactly why I'm doing it." Um, it's that piece of coming home to yourself, which means you got to be rebellious against most of what you've been taught, and really learn to look at it. That doesn't mean that pieces of it don't fit and work beautifully in your world, but it's recognizing what belief systems are actually yours, what actually feels good to you, where did it come from, does it still work, does it fit, do you want to continue to apply it and use it in your world. um, it's that coming home. And I totally just lost my thought. Um, but in creating that business, I also have now being given the opportunity to look at myself, and how I show up for myself and for others outside of me, and that that coming home process for me, and wholly eye opening. And I've had moments where I've wanted to be upset. I've had moments where I have been upset. I've had moments where I felt really pissed off because of the experiences that I've gotten to have, but at the same time, super grateful because it allows me to hold better space for you as you move through those processes on your own. And yeah, I don't know. I have lots of things in my mind now.
I think of when you were talking of what you said yesterday about what is it you're holding on to? And I think of stories. I think a lot of the stories of how we want to show up, who we are, who we've been told we are. And I personally am in a space of getting to reinvent and redesign what that looks like for me. But it's really scary because I feel just at odds with what to do with myself sometimes. I know the things that I do, but they're not who I am. And I'm like, I know who I am, but what do I do? Right. And it's just, I find it challenging because I know all those activities that I used to do in my other space, it gave me a sense of independence. It gave me a sense of ownership. It gave me a sense of accountability. And I'm in a space of relearning all of what that means to me.
Do you feel like it also gave you a sense of, like, I'm listening to you and I'm thinking my own experience because I'm getting similar experiences in a different way, but similar experiences. But do you feel like it also gave you a space of just like, because it gave you some ownership, it gave you a sense of knowing, like, I can push through this. Like it gave you a space to like be a warrior and not necessarily have to deal with some of the things because we just know how to get through it. That's my experience anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you know that world, you know how to navigate that world, you know how to I don't want to say manipulate, but you know how to move things around. Yeah. Well, it's to make it work. You know, I think of efficiencies. I think of how to get what you want and what you need in that world. You know, how do you get your needs met? And it's, yeah, I definitely think of that.
Well, and part of our
muscling through.
Right? That's a great way to say it, like just muscling through.
Well, and how much you shut off other pieces of yourself in that process because you can just drive home, make yourself super busy, and you have all these other distractions so you don't have to look at the harder parts.
And I think that was part of our conversation yesterday is, and again, it's part of why Righteous Rebels was created. And we do it. This is the beautiful thing about it is we do it through creativity and play. We create activities where you get to be creative and you get to play so that the slowest body to learn the lessons just like catches up more quickly because it's distracted. The guardians of the mind are distracted. But we were talking about, so part of the reason the community was created is a lot of times we don't have people in our world who will actually talk through the challenging things with us. They either don't know how, or they don't want to, or it's too tender for them to hold. It's very uncomfortable. Hold space for your feelings and emotions and your heart things, and to say, I see you and I'm here for you. And I'm not going to let you like give me all the bullshit stuff you just gave me. Like
that is super welcoming and really disturbing at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, dang it. Why do you have to see that? Like I thought I was doing a really good job of hiding that.
I think sometimes I do a really good job of hiding it too. And it is scary to have people who see us, but at the same time, it's so refreshing and it's so freeing. And it really clears up the space for us to actually create and live in the ways we say we want to live. it's that uncumbered. It's the taking we talk about the backpack, is the taking the rocks out of the backpack and seeing what's actually in there and laying them down for a foundation of something healthier and more vibrant and exciting and playful in your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we get so used to carrying that heavy thing around that we forget that those heavy things
Or
have a
even
far
there.
better purpose. Yeah, sometimes.
Well, I just think of how you talk about yuck berries and how we store this energy within us because we don't process it, and it's just, we think it's easier to just put it away, and it's, then it comes out in ways that we might not.
You gotta do the dance.
Do a little dance, in ways that we don't expect. It could, show itself as like anger, or it could show, sadness, or whatever that is for you. I think when you're constantly looking at those yuck berries or processing them or not storing them, just the lightness that comes with that, and you don't need to feel the need. You don't need to carry it. It's just more open.
I love that, and it brings us back to like what we started unintentionally talking about today, and that's boundaries. Like when you see what that stuff is, and you really discover why you've been, where it came from, why you've been carrying it, how you think it protects you. It allows you, me, Leah, to practice setting boundaries and experimenting with what that feels like and what it actually brings to us, so that we don't have to carry the heavy stuff. We can be like, okay, here's something that is uncomfortable or that's painful or that I just can't deal with in the moment or ever maybe. And what boundary could I set for myself that feels good and healthy and helps me stay in strong spaces and high vibe energy, so that I can move forward until maybe I feel strength to either erase the boundary or shift it. But you don't have to carry the shit.
And this is more a reminder for myself and anyone else that struggles with boundaries. And it goes back to the point of the conversation where we're talking about giving reasons.
I was just say, I totally felt that one coming.
We don't need to give reasons for our boundaries. No one else has to understand it. It just invites questioning and invites you to doubt yourself. And the reality is, it's your boundary and what creates safety in your space and empowers you. And if you have that, you can move differently. Because I just think of like, if I don't have that boundary, I have to accept things that don't feel good for me. I have to be open and process other people's agendas and other people's feelings and it's not a place that feels safe, especially for myself, in a place of transition and change and all of that. So you don't have to explain, and no one has to understand your boundaries. And it's,
I think that's been another big thing about this past year, and just all the things that took place in by way of practicing what I call listening to spirit or source, God, whatever that energy is for you, and following those. Sometimes they're a physical feeling. Sometimes it's just a sense of like, I've really got to go do this thing, and then continuing to, it's that surrender piece, continuing to live open-handed and allow life. This is like the biggest aha for me. Like, I'd heard it for years, is that allowing life to unfold, and other people will want reasons sometimes, or explanations as to why you're doing things the way you're doing. We've been taught that we have to give answers. We have to know the process. We have to know all of the steps. And the reality is we don't. Our humanness wants that, and other people around us want that, but our souls don't necessarily require or need that. And that's scary.
It is. I'm like thinking of that for myself. Like, I don't know, and I can't give it to other people. So it's even just being okay with that in myself. And I feel like I'm more comfortable with that than other people.
Absolutely.
And they almost feel like you're hiding something from them. Like, it's no, actually, I'm just feeling this one out. Like, and there's no need to have this all figured out. a long, I used to say this to my friend all the time, because she had, her 5-year plan, and it was all like laid out and this and that. I'm like, I had been through enough life to know that whatever I had planned, it would go just because of just the chaos that I grew up in. And so you can't account for accidents, you can't account for weather, you can't, I think of all the things that could shift those. Why be so rigid with one way of things looking? When we can be more flexible and move with how things are being presented, because there's value in that too. Just because it's not the way that you think it should be doesn't mean it's wrong. So
I think the biggest physical experience of what I was experiencing mentally, emotionally, spiritually last year was being on the river, where we talk about flow. We talk about allowing things to flow, allowing things to unfold, and just going with it. And on the river, we had to go with it. We were in the boat. We had a little bit of control by way of the oars to keep us in direction, nose down the river. But the rapids came, and sometimes they were little and they were fun and they were just bumpy, and you get through. And then others, it's whoa, I got to pay attention to this. And you have to use a little more force, and the oars become less directional and more just moving you through the hard, I don't want to say hard, the challenging waters, and getting you back to the calmness. And sometimes you get dumped, and that's a whole different experience. But at the same time, it was still that me had to surrender to the water and to the experience of that, and that there's always a calm. That was the biggest thing, is that there's always a calm. And with this surrender that has taken place this last year and that I've been practicing, that's, I think, the biggest piece that has kept me in it. And being willing to look at the stuff in my backpack, and learning how to set boundaries, and learning how to not have to give reasons that to make other people feel good, because when they're not going to hear what I have to say anyway, more than likely. And sometimes it's just tender and not to be shared. But it's the reason that I've stuck with it is the peace that flowed in, that was you're in the right direction. Even though there's been some tumultuous waters and you feel like you've been tossed around, you're in the right direction. And I just want to tell you that that's available for you too. It's available and just waiting for you as well.
Love it. I love that you brought up the river trip.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Tell me why.
Because we have our registration open.
Yes, we do.
August 14th to 20th. So you can reserve your spot with a $500 deposit. And then the next
first payment is coming up the 1st of February. We're asking that you reach out to us. We'll probably change some things on the website that way, but in order to save you some dollars, we have a way that you can pay us to allow you to do that. So reach out.
Well, I was just, reach out. I was going to say something, but I haven't checked in. So we had put that in place before. Anyways, it's an amazing, amazing experience that will stay with you. So it's the Surviving Life and Leadership River Trip.
It's what?
Surviving.
Raising
your vibe. Jen talked about leveling up, and it's a great experience to bring leadership. All these things that we learn about how we lead, what leadership is, what your style is, how to practice that, and take it from abstract ideas and get your hands in it and really live it in different ways with a new group of people. Get out of your automated routine and your roles. I think it's such an important way to get out of your roles, and so you can see the different parts of you, because when you're always in those roles,
you're gonna see some different parts of you.
Yeah, definitely.
But here's the beautiful part of that, is whether or not you're a mom, you're a teacher, you're a community leader, you're an artist, you're an author, you're a content creator, whatever, you're going to have plenty of opportunity to come home with new ideas, expanded vision, because you're going to be able to see you, and you will have space for inquiry, space to like just ponder and create and
Reflect.
let flow come in, and you will come away with lots of content, lots of ideas, and lots of incredible life experience to share with whoever it is you're leading and through whatever medium.
Love it. So to find out more, I'm going to put the Righteous Rebels link in the comments. It's the righteousrebels.com. And you'll find out all about the river trip. Or if you're looking for payment options, you can just reach out to Jen or myself, or comment on the page and we'll reach out to you.
Yes, we would love that. And remember, we house all of our live and unscripted on the Righteous Rebels Facebook group. You can join that group by clicking the button. We'll let you in. Also, they're housed at therighteousrebels.com /
Live and Unscripted podcast.
Live and Unscripted podcast. There's some incredible ones there. We interviewed Jesse last week. That was amazing. If you want to know a little bit more about the river retreat experience, we interviewed Kate Burke last year. She has an incredible story. One of my favorite Live and Unscripteds. But we got lots of good ones. Brandy Morris. We got good ones coming up this year as well. So head on over to therighteousrebels.com for the river trip. You can find Live and Unscripted and learn a little bit more about us.
Next week we have Sam, who we met at the what's it called?
Ship
Pro here in town. So that was super fun.
And how long have we talked to Sam? Like 5 minutes.
Yeah, but she's
we learned a lot.
Yeah, a lively soul. She's got lots of energy. She's a creative, so I'm really looking forward to chatting with Sam. So she'll be on next week, the 24th.
Oh my gosh! Thanks for hanging in there with us for this one. We really just today decided we were gonna let whatever came out of our faces come out and trust that it was going to be exactly the thing that needed to come out. So. Thanks for just being raw and real and vulnerable with us. And remember that we love you. We're here for you. We support you. And we would love to hear what that looks like. How can we support you? What can we create for you? And what do you want to be a part of? And with that, be bold.
Be brave.
Be a rebel. We'll see you soon.
That worked.
Nice.